Tova.
Oh, louder. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
That was amazing. Let's sing with Alan Goodis and be happy we're all here together. This is so nice.
We return,
we return,
we return,
we return,
we return, return again. We return,
we return,
we return,
we return,
we return, return again and again to love, to love, to love. We return again to love.
Return. That's a big word for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because we're supposed to return, like look backwards at the year that finished and say, could I do a little better or a lot better? So we return looking backwards, and then we return forward and say, okay, I'm going to act better. And Yom Kippur is all about saying we're sorry and doing things better. And also, a lot of you returned if we were here with us for Rosh Hashanah, so that's a good kind of return too. So we're going to sing again in a moment, but first I'm going to ask the grown-ups, if you have phones on you, could you turn them off? It is not so fun when it goes off in the middle of something. If you turn off your phones. And we're going to ask everyone as much as you can today. If you're a reader, read with us. Even if you don't think you're a singer, sing with us, right, Alan? Cantor Goldstein always says there's law, right? And for those of you who don't know, I'm Rabbi Green, and this is Rabbi Leisman, and this is Alan Goodis, and we're super excited to be with you. So I think it's great we're here together. Let's sing that with Hinei Ma Tov after we sing We Return.
We return.
Return.
We return.
We return.
We return, return again. We return.
We return.
We return.
We return.
We return, return again and again to love, to love, to love. We return again to love. We invite you to join us as we join together words of welcome. Hinei Ma Tov, how good it is for us to be together. You're invited to sing. You're even invited to clap if you like. Here we go. We sing together like this. Hinei Ma Tov, umanayim shevet achim yam yachad. Hinei Ma Tov, umanayim shevet achim yam yachad. Let's all sing that again. Hinei Ma Tov, Hinei Ma Tov, umanayim shevet achim yam yachad. Hinei Ma Tov, umanayim shevet achim yam yachad. First two lines you sing back. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. The kids know it, yeah. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hinei Ma Tov, umanayim shevet achim yam yachad. Hinei Ma Tov, umanayim shevet achim yam yachad. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is,
How good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. Hinei Ma Tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei Ma Tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Turn, if you would, please, to page 63 in your prayer book. Page 63. And if you're a reader, would you join with me? And if you're not, maybe you'll see a letter or a word that you know, and you could read that one. Good page finding. Let's pray. Let's read together. Yom Kippur is a day of thinking and remembering. Yom Kippur is a day to remember how we acted this past year. Yom Kippur gives us an opportunity to think about how we could have done a little better. Yom Kippur is a day to think about who we want to be this new year. Yom Kippur gives us an opportunity to say, I am sorry, and start over again. As we begin our service today, we ask God to listen carefully to our apologies, our prayers, and our promises for the new year. We turn to page 76. 76. When you get to page 76, if you're able to stand, please do. If it's too difficult to stand, we understand.
Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. There's some English words here we sing, which are questions. Maybe we consider these as we sing them. Ask yourself these questions and maybe even try to answer them. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai.
Our next prayer is a very famous prayer called Shema. And Shema, the word means listen. So raise your hand if you heard someone talking or singing or breathing today. Oh, everybody heard some of that. Raise your hand if you heard the lake today or the wind. Raise your hand if you heard an animal today. I suspect we got everybody if you get breathing in there, right? So Shema says, listen, hear, O Israel, meaning we should all listen and listen for things that remind us of God. For some of that's our own breath. For some of us, that's laughter and talking. For some of it, it's beautiful things out in nature. So let's turn to page 83. 83. And we're going to sing Shema together. And as we do, let's listen to the people around us, because that too is a reminder that God is all around us.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated. So our next prayer, Chamocha, is about awesomeness. So think about something that you have seen that's awesome. Maybe you saw someone make a really great shot in basketball. I don't know, Rabbi Leisman, you might have done that. You might have seen I don't know, maybe you didn't make a good shot. Did you make a good shot?
In a couple days, but yes.
Okay. Maybe you saw something beautiful in nature like a bird or a flower, or maybe you saw a mountain this summer. You saw someone do some awesome act of kindness. So I invite you to think for a moment and turn to someone sitting next to you and tell them one awesome thing that you seen this summer or maybe even today. And let's turn to page 86 and let's sing Mi Chamocha. This song is about when our ancestors, the people who came before us, got out of Egypt and the sea split and they got to walk through and be free. And they said, thanks God, you're awesome. So let's think about awesomeness and sing Mi Chamocha, page 86.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh pele, Adonai yimloch leolam vaed.
And page 103. So we're going to read the words in the blue block. Talks about holiness, how we can be like God. There is holiness when we strive to be true to the best we know. There is holiness when we are kind to someone who cannot be of service to us. There is holiness when we promote family harmony. There is holiness when we love truly and honestly and unselfishly. There is holiness when we are willing to be laughed at for what we believe in. There is holiness when we forget what divides us and remember what unites us. There is holiness when we remember the lonely and bring cheer into a dark corner. There is holiness when we share our bread, our ideas, and our enthusiasm. So we can be holy. We can be like God. We can be kind and do great things in the world. So I invite you to turn the page. Alan's going to sing, and you can sing with him if you know it. L'dor vador on page 105. Makes us think about things from the generations before us, from our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. So maybe before he sings, maybe adults, you can tell the kids you're with about some act of holiness, of kindness that someone in their family has done that you want them to continue. A tradition.
We are gifts and we are blessings. We are history in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. L'dor vador nagid godlecha. L'dor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, L'dor vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our heart, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part. We are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way. And the words that bring us meaning, we will have the strength to say. L'dor vador nagid godlecha. L'dor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, L'dor vador, these lips will praise your name.
Turn the page to 107. And I invite the adults in the room to turn to the children you are with. And we're going to start reading the prayer together where it says, may you be like, and I count to 3. Echad, shtayim, shalosh. May you be like Abraham and Sarah, who had the courage to believe in a God they could not see. May you be like Rebekah, who was kind to all, people and animals. May you be like Jacob, who understood that God could be found everywhere. May you be like Miriam, whose love made her a protector. May you be like Moses, who wasn't afraid to ask for help. May all of our prayers be sweet to you, God, and may this new year be a good one. So children, maybe you'll let the grown-ups put a hand on your head or shoulders or give you a hug as we turn to the words of the priestly blessing. They're on page 111, and Alan's going to sing, and we could sing with him. But maybe grown-ups, you can give a hug or put a hand on a head or shoulder as we bless with these wonderful ancient words that are so modern too. We bless our children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. V'yasem lecha shalom.
Adults, we invite you to say something, any words of private blessing or pride to the children you're with, your children, grandchildren. Maybe it's simply that I love you, or something you're proud of them today, or some blessing you have for them. You hope they are, or like someone, or do something.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
We turn to page 114. This is a very special prayer for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur called Avinu Malkeinu. And I'm going to go open the ark. And I'm going to invite everyone who's able to stand up, if you would, and you'll get to see the ark open, and we can pray these words. God is like a king. God is like a queen. Avinu Malkeinu helps us compare God to things we understand. God is like all of these things, and God is more than all of these things. Let's pray together. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, we have missed the mark before you. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our families. Avinu Malkeinu, help us bring an end to sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings. Avinu Malkeinu, help us to write our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Honeinu va'anenu, ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Honeinu va'anenu, ki ein banu masim.
And everybody may be seated. We're going to take a big jump in our prayer book. Those can be fun. To page 139. And before we read this together, some of you might be familiar with there's a thing we do on Yom Kippur where, if you want to take out your fist, you have a clenched fist, and we gently knock on our hearts like this. We do this on Yom Kippur when we acknowledge our mistakes, our shortcomings, just like a little knock like this. It can be hard to face those mistakes. This is not beating ourselves up. That's a misconception that we are punching. We are knocking lightly on our hearts to wake ourselves up to the kind of people that we want to be in the year to come. So if you are a reader, I'll invite you to join me on page 139. If you're not, I'll invite you to think about maybe a mistake, someone that you'd like to apologize to, a sibling, a parent, a teacher, and otherwise we are on page 139. And with each line, I'll invite you to gently knock on your hearts. Sometimes we miss the mark, or we don't try our best. Sometimes we miss the mark on purpose, and sometimes by accident. Sometimes we miss the mark by not caring, and sometimes by being mean. Sometimes we miss the mark by acting like we are better than others, and sometimes by not listening. Sometimes we miss the mark by telling lies, and sometimes by hurting people's feelings. Sometimes we miss the mark by being selfish, and sometimes by losing our temper. God, none of us is perfect. We remember the times we have missed the mark, so that the next time we can do better. Forgive us and help us to try harder. Help us to learn from our mistakes. Help us to be the best people we can be. And we are going to turn to a big highlight of the service, the Torah service. If Dr. Goodman asked you to volunteer for a special job of holding the Torah, I'll invite you to come forward at this time. And otherwise, if you are under the age of 13, I'll invite you to come closer. You can take a seat up on this level right here. There's lots of space. Adults, Kids get the first chance, but you can stand and get
Page
a little closer
120.
to get a closer look at the Torah scroll.
Page 120 in the blue box. We sing like this because words of Torah are sweet to us like honey on our tongues. We sing, sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam Asher kitshanu B'mitzvotav v'tzivanu La'asok b'divrei Torah La'asok b'divrei Torah. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam Asher kitshanu B'mitzvotav v'tzivanu La'asok b'divrei Torah La'asok b'divrei Torah. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam Asher kitshanu B'mitzvotav v'tzivanu La'asok b'divrei Torah La'asok b'divrei Torah. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue.
Well, I gotta say even myself, wow. Look at this. Look at all this Torah. Oh, and the Yad. Yeah, so out of all of this, this is quite a bit, huh? Do you think we have time to read all of it? Just kidding. We're just going to read a little bit. Over here, we have special readings for holidays and special weeks, all this sort of stuff. We're going to start reading right over here. We read a section on Yom Kippur. It's called in Hebrew, Nitzavim. And a really cool part about this Torah portion, it starts with Atem Nitzavim. We'll read it in a second, but Kulchem means all of you. And it names different kinds of people by age, by job. All of this is to say that we read these words on Yom Kippur. We do the Yom Kippur thing together, all of us, every single person, no matter who you are, what your status is, you are included in this Torah portion. So we're going to start right here. Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem rashechem shivtechem ziknechem v'shotrechem kol ish Yisrael tapchem nashechem v'gercha asher bekerev machanecha mechotev eitzecha ad shoev meimecha le'avarcha bivrit Adonai Elohecha uv'alato asher Adonai Elohecha koret imcha hayom. So, let's see what all that means. All right, sound good? Let's see. All of you standing on this day, all of you before Adonai your God, all the heads of your tribes, and all your elders, and all your officials, every single person in Israel, your children and your women, the strangers that are near your camp, from the wood chopper to the water drawer, who enter this agreement with Adonai your God, that God agreed with you today. And that's our Torah. Nitzavim, it's what it's called. It's about every single one of us entering this day of Yom Kippur. And it's pretty cool to see it up close, wouldn't you say? Do you agree? Yeah. Cool. We got to unscroll it and see quite a bit of it. And while we roll it up, we are going to do a little bit more singing. Sweet as honey.
Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Baruch, Baruch, Atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Melech haolam, Asher kitshanu, V'mitzvotav etzivanu, La'asok b'divrei Torah, La'asok b'divrei Torah. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue.
So the Torah is filled with stories about our people. Now, I have a story about our people. And to start, I'm going to need someone to volunteer a name, a random name, not your own name. Yeah. You don't know? Okay, yeah. Landon? Okay. So this is a story about, who do you think it's about? Yeah? It's about Landon, actually. So Landon lived in a small town. We can call that town Chelm. And Landon loved to gossip, loved to tell stories about other people to other people. And sometimes Landon would even exaggerate a detail, so the story might be a little funnier or a little more engaging. And Landon loved this feeling of the person with the fun story to tell, the popular person. So one time he heard an interesting story from a local business person and then Landon went around and told everybody else. this business person's story. And the business person heard what was being said and became very upset. Thought he would ruin the business, thought it would ruin his reputation. And so this business person goes to the rabbi of Chelm. And the business person says, "Rabbi, can you help me? This story that is being told about me, it will keep people from wanting to do business with me. Whatever will I do? Can you help me?" And knowing her townspeople well, the rabbi was fairly certain that she knew who was spreading the story. Do you remember who was spreading the story? No? Landon. The rabbi was pretty sure that it was Landon. So she called him into the office to meet. So Landon goes up and says, "Rabbi, what's the matter?" And the rabbi says, "We all know how much you love to tell stories, but right now we have a problem. There's a very upset business person who thinks your story is going to ruin their reputation and their business." And as soon as the rabbi stopped speaking, Landon knew there was a problem. Of course, he knew about the story because he was the one that told it. He didn't know what to say, what to do. He felt really uncomfortable. He felt terrible. Never thought about the damage, the hurt that could come from telling these kinds of stories. He only thought about the joy and the popularity that it gave to him. He wanted to do anything to make it better, so he said, "Rabbi, what can I do? What can I do to help?" And the rabbi thought for a second and said, "Do you have any feather pillows?" Does anybody here sleep with a feather pillow? Yeah? Okay, so he asked for, the rabbi, she asked for a feather pillow, and Landon's like, "I really don't know what's going on here, but yes, I do, sure." And the rabbi says, "Bring it back to me tomorrow." So Landon doesn't have a great night's sleep because Landon's nervous, but goes, carries his pillow throughout the whole town, back to the rabbi. Everyone's looking at this guy thinking, what in the world is he doing carrying a pillow through the town center to the synagogue, and goes to the rabbi and says, "Okay, Rabbi, here is my feather pillow." And the rabbi says, "Thank you for bringing the pillow. Now let's cut it open, and I want you to take the feathers out, go around town, put one feather on every single person's doorstep, then come back to me." So Landon's sort of like that. Landon's like, "What in the world are you telling me to do?" But Landon does it, and Landon goes around town, puts a feather on each doorstep, comes back to the rabbi, says, "Okay, Rabbi, I don't know what you have up your sleeve, but I did it." And the rabbi says, "Now, Landon, go back through the town and collect each of those feathers and put it back in the pillow." And Landon says, "You've got to be kidding me. I already saw the feathers blowing away when I put them down on the doorstep in the first place. How am I ever going to collect them all again?" And the rabbi says, in her wisdom, she says, "That's the same for gossip, for our words. These feathers are supposed to represent our words. Once you let them go from your lips, once you tell this gossip into the world, you can never get it back again. It floats and flutters away in whatever direction the wind carries it. That is why you always must watch your words carefully and avoid gossip." And I'm hoping, Landon, that you learned a lesson. There's a story about Landon, but it's really, I think, a story about all of us. It's fun to tell stories, fun to use our words, and it is always important to keep in mind how we are using our words to make sure they are for a good purpose, especially as we are on Yom Kippur, thinking about how we are going to be in a new year. One way is to be mindful, to be careful with our words and how they are going to make other people feel. So that's a story about Landon, but really it's a story about all of us on Yom Kippur. So I think we have some announcements, yeah?
I think we just want to say thank you. We are so excited that everyone is here to mark Yom Kippur with us, and we hope that in a few minutes when we're done singing, when you go home, you can talk in the car on the way home or wherever you're going to break fast later, and talk about how we can be more careful with our words, because otherwise we're going to have to be collecting feathers, and it's going to be a mess. They're going to get in the lake. It's going to be really, might not be good for the ducks either.
We'll have to tell this story again next year, and then we'll have to do the whole thing
I
over
know.
again. So might as well just...
So let's be super careful so we don't have to get into feathers. Two quick things. One is when you do leave the sanctuary at the end of the service, please take your prayer books with you and give them to our ushers. Barry Sack is back there. He's going to wave. So it will make it so much easier because we have another service here in a little bit, and then they don't have to come get the books. And lastly, there are two really big pods in that parking lot over there. Anyone see them? One is for cradles to crayons, and one is for the ark. So all the adults and kids can do something really awesome this week. First off, find games and books and art supplies and clothes that are gently used, please, gently used or new, and you can bring them to the Cradles to Crayons pod. And adults, you can take these super kids grocery shopping and bring non-perishable kosher food, not hard to find. Go to Jewel, go to Whole Foods, go to Sunset, and bring food so we can fill that pod and give people who don't have food for the holidays food. Two really important mitzvot we can do together. So we want to say Shana Tova. Thank you all for joining us, and let's sing to close our service.
Shana Tova, Shana Tova, Shana Tova, Shana Tova. Yalai, lalai, lai, yalai, lalai, lai, yalai, lalai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, lai. Yalai lalai lai, yalai lalai lai, yalai lalai lai, yai lai lai, yalai lai lai, yalai lalai lai, yai lai, yai lai, yalai lalai lai, yai lalai lai lai. Shana Tova, Shana Tova. Shana Tova, Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. May it be a good year. Gamar Chatima Tova. May we be inscribed in the book of life for a good year. Go home and talk about how we keep from having to throw feathers. Think about our words. Shana Tova. Thanks, everyone.